After my wife was diagnosed with heart failure, she suggested a fake divorce to avoid burdening me. I firmly refused, working day jobs and delivering food at night to cover her medical expenses, while also caring wholeheartedly for my paralyzed mother-in-law. Returning home exhausted after my last delivery, I overheard their conversation. Qingwan, how much longer will you keep pretending to be sick and lying to Hanyu? For you, he works himself to the bone and still tends to me, an old woman. He only sleeps 3 hours a day, yawning uncontrollably from exhaustion. It breaks my heart. That boy has been nothing but good to both of us. We wronged him once already. It's time to stop this charade. My wife coldly interrupted. No, without pretending to be sick, how could I buy Aichin that supercar? How else can I pressure Hanyu into divorcing me to legitimize Aichin? Mom, don't worry. Once I've fully secured Aichin, I'll remarry Hanyu and spend the rest of my life making it up to him. In that case, I choose to withdraw. Their love game doesn't deserve my participation. Are both parties certain about divorcing? Faced with the Civil Affairs Bureau officer's inquiry, Su Qingwan, my wife, nodded decisively. Affirmative. When she noticed my gaze, Su Qingwan grasped my hand, her eyes slightly reddening as she said, Hanyu, the treatment for heart failure is a bottomless pit. I can't keep burdening you anymore. Divorcing is for your own good. Besides, didn't we agree before coming here? Let's divorce temporarily first. If I survive this ordeal and my condition turns benign, it won't be too late for us to remarry. As these words fell, the staff members couldn't help but cast sympathetic glances toward us, sighing about life's cruel twists of fate. Yet I kept my eyes locked on Su Qingwan, clenching my fists so tightly that my palms hurt. Had I not accidentally overheard her conversation with my mother-in-law, I would have been deeply moved by these words, convinced that she loved me with every fiber of her being. What a shame, it was all a lie. Su Qingwan's heart failure was fake, and her love for me was also fake. She did all these just to divorce me and legitimize her relationship with her junior, Sichun. So when she proposed divorce again on that night, I overheard their conversation. I finally agreed. Su Qingwan kept tugging my hand, and I knew she was urging me to consent quickly. I suppressed the bitterness welling up in my heart, then nodded slowly after a long pause. I'm sure. The stamp's thud officially ended our decade-long marriage. Soon, the staff handed the divorce certificates to me and Su Qingwan. Upon receiving the certificate, a glimmer of delight flashed in Su Qingwan's eyes. But my heart ached with sorrow. Was divorcing me such a joyous occasion for her? In my days, Su Qingwan had already pressed close to me. In you, although we're divorced, you'll always be my husband in my heart. There's no need for you to move out. You can keep living at home. Perfect. You don't have to bear my medical expenses during this period, so you won't be so exhausted. You can take proper rest at home now. At that moment, Su Qingwan's phone rang, and she promptly answered it. Whatever was said on the other end of the line caused a faint blush to appear on her face. After hanging up, Su Qingwan turned to me with an unnatural expression. Hanyu, I still need to go to the hospital for a follow-up check later. You should go home first. There was no need to guess. The caller must have been Sichun. As for the hospital visit, it was clearly just Su Qingwan's excuse. When Su Qingwan turned to leave, I stubbornly grabbed her hand. Maybe I could accompany you. She firmly refused. No need. Realizing her tone was too harsh, she softened her voice. Hanyu, I divorced you precisely because I didn't want to burden you. If you accompany me now, wouldn't that make our divorce meaningless? With a quiet sigh, I finally released my grip, watching helplessly as Su Qingwan walked away. No sooner had she left than my phone also rang. It was a call from the hospital. Mr. Han, your recent physical examination report is ready. Please come to the hospital to collect it. The checkup had been done after I collapsed from hypoglycemia while delivering takeout, when a kind passerby sent me to the hospital. I agreed and took a taxi to the hospital. After arriving, the doctor shook his head grimly while reviewing my report. Mr. Han, your prolonged overexertion and irregular lifestyle have led to kidney failure. I'm afraid you don't have much time left. You should mentally prepare yourself. Understood. Thank you, doctor. Clutching the report, I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. Su Qingwan, your illness was fabricated, yet now mine is all too real. After leaving the hospital, I wandered aimlessly through the streets, directionless and adrift. Then a familiar voice reached my ears. Turning around, I saw Su Qingwan and Sichun. They stepped down from a red sports car, fingers tightly interlaced, heading towards the photography studio like a perfect couple. Senior, why did you take so long to fulfill your promise? Do you know how much I've missed you these days? Sichun held Su Qingwan's hand, coquettishly pouting. Su Qingwan fondly brushed the tip of Sichun's nose with her finger. I already asked Hanyu for a divorce long ago. To prevent him from finding employment, I even used connections to blacklist him from the industry. Who knew he'd be so persistent? To earn money for my medical treatment, he actually resorted to delivering takeout, and working construction. Sichin swung the car keys with evident pride. Brother Han, you still doesn't realize the money he earned was actually used by you, Senior, to buy gifts for me. Senior, you really do spoil me. Su Qingwan decisively ended the conversation. Enough. Didn't we come to take wedding photos? Let's go. Watching their intimate figures walk away, my eyes stung with tears. Glancing at the supercar parked at the entrance, bitterness flooded my heart. To save up medical fees for Su Qingwan, I survived on cold water and dry, hard steam buns for every meal. Yet the money I painstakingly saved was spent by her on Sichun without a second thought. A 3 million yuan supercar, purchased just like that. In the end, I was just a clown who worked himself to death to pave the way for others. If that's how it is, then I choose to withdraw. I won't participate in their love game anymore. With this thought, I took a taxi to the crematorium and used my last savings to book a cremation package for myself. This money came from extra tips left by food delivery customers. I originally intended to buy the pearl necklace Su Qingwan always wanted, hoping to make her happy. Now it seems unnecessary. After paying, I specifically wrote a will instructing the staff not to allow anyone else, especially Su Qingwan, to interfere with my funeral arrangements. That way, even if I died, I wouldn't have any connection with her anymore. Su Qingwan, this time, it's me who chooses to let you go. After leaving the crematorium, penniless, I could only temporarily return to the home I shared with Su Qingwan. Just as I lay down on the bed, I saw Siching's newly updated social media post. The 9-square grid was filled with their blissful wedding photos, foreheads touching, hands forming heart shapes. I hadn't seen such a carefree smile on Su Qingwan's face in a long time. In the photos, the diamond rings on their hands are strikingly eye-catching yet piercing to behold. Yet the ring on Su Qingwan's finger isn't the wedding band I shared with her. Her original wedding ring was hand-carved and designed by me, featuring a distinctive style. I specifically sculpted the diamond into a heart shape. There was a time when Su Qingwan and I used to radiate happiness like this too. When we first got married, we couldn't bear to be apart from each other for even a day, wearing matching slippers, using couple mugs, even our phone cases had to be pairs. But now, Su Qingwan finds those couple items childish and hasn't touched them in ages. Now she's even taken off our wedding ring, replacing both the band and the old person it symbolized. I find myself dazed, wondering exactly when we ended up like this. Was it when she lied about the red mark on her neck being a mosquito bite? Or when she stood me up on my birthday to go on a date with Sichin? Or perhaps when she feigned illness to demand divorce just to legitimize her relationship with Sichin, watching coldly even as I kept myself to exhaustion. My chest felt stuffy, as if stuffed with a damp cotton ball, making me miserable. Warm tears slid silently down, soaking the pillow. Soon, I fell into a deep sleep. Not knowing how long I slept, I awoke just as Su Qingwan returned through the door. Hanyu, I'm back. Look what I brought you. In a daze, Su Qingwan had already moved close to me and placed the paper bag in my hands. Your favorite seafood kanji, eat it while it's hot. Hanyu, you've worked so hard lately. Look how much thinner you've gotten for my sake. It breaks my heart. You really need to nourish yourself now. Su Qingwan spoke earnestly, her eyes brimming with tenderness as she gazed at me. Yet when she reached out, the tattoo on her arm became glaringly conspicuous and ironic. AAC. Flustered, she tugged down her sleeve to cover it, explaining. I saw all my friends had tattoos, so I got one casually for fun. Don't overthink it. My heart felt like it was soaked in sour water, aching and bitter. She couldn't deceive me. AAC, the initials for Love Ah-chun. Moreover, Su Qingwan had always been terrified of pain, even fearing injections. Yet for Si-chun, she could endure the agony of tattooing. I smiled faintly, choosing not to expose her lie. Anyway, I'm already dying. There's no point dwelling on these things anymore. I believe you. Don't worry, I won't overthink it. Hearing this, Su Qingwan let out a relieved sigh. Qingwan, tomorrow I want to. All my money was entrusted to Su Qingwan's care. I was about to ask her for some funds to move out tomorrow. But Su Qingwan abruptly interrupted. You reminded me, tomorrow marks exactly 10 years since our wedding anniversary. Hanyu, although we're divorced, we should still maintain proper ceremonial gestures. How about we visit Arai Lake tomorrow? To celebrate properly? I was stunned. Arai Lake, the very place where we first met. Back then, I'd been framed for plagiarism and wanted to end my life by jumping into the sea in despair. At that critical moment, Su Qingwan physically stopped me from jumping. Our love had taken root and blossomed from there. Thinking it fitting to see things through from beginning to end, I nodded in agreement. The next day, I arrived at Arai Lake by taxi at the appointed time, but no one showed up. Soon after, Sichin sent me a text message loaded with provocation. Hanyu, stop waiting. Senior is busy looking at wedding venues with me. He even specially sent me a live stream link. When I clicked in, Sichin was live streaming a wedding venue tour. Babes, the host is getting married in 10 days. Netizens were frantically spamming 99 in the chat. Everyone was speculating about who Sikhen would marry. However, the half-exposed hand in the camera looked familiar to me. It was Su Qingwan's. The next second, Su Qingwan called me. Hanyu. Sorry, the hospital suddenly called me to get a full body checkup that'll take all day. I'm afraid I can't accompany you for our 10th anniversary. As she spoke, she transferred me 2,000. Spend this freely and relax yourself. I still couldn't accept it. Qingwan, can't the checkup wait until tomorrow? Today is our 10th anniversary. Just accompany me, okay? Su Qingwan fell silent for a moment before speaking earnestly. Be good, stop being difficult. I'm doing this for your own sake. Don't you want me to recover sooner and remarry you quickly? I'll definitely make up for this missed anniversary next time. All right, go do your work. The call disconnected. I didn't tell her we had no future together. This might be our last anniversary. Swallowing the bitterness in my heart, I used the money Su Qingwan just transferred to buy a cruise ticket. If no one would accompany me in my final moments, I'd enjoy them alone. As the ship set sail, sea wind carrying ocean spray slapped my face, salty and damp. I couldn't tell if it was seawater or tears. The afterglow of sunset danced on the sea surface, sparkling brilliantly. Though the view was breathtaking, I felt no joy, only bitterness. Su Qingwan had actually treated me well all these years. When I was driven to despair by malicious rumors, she saved me from jumping into the sea and gave me hope. When my father fled after racking up gambling debts, and after my mother jumped off a building in despair, it was she who used her years of savings to pay off my debts. That's why I loved her with utter devotion, willing to sacrifice everything for her, even my life. But I never imagined that Su Qingwan, who loved me so deeply, would one day deceive me too. However, since I'm about to die, none of this matters anymore. After watching the sunset, I disembarked from the cruise ship and hailed a taxi to my mother-in-law's residence, intending to bid her farewell. Instead, I found her chasing Su Qingwan and Sichen out of the house. Scram. My son-in-law will only be Hanyu. I won't recognize anyone else. My mother-in-law swung a feather duster at Su Qingwan and Sichen. Su Qingwan shielded Sichen behind her, shouting angrily. Mom, I told you, Hanyu is my husband, that fact won't change. But my true love is Achin. Why won't you accept him? The older woman's face flushed crimson with rage. Qingwan, don't forget, when you pretended to be sick, it was Xiaoyu who fed me and washed my feet, caring for me without complaint to fulfill your filial duties. How could you say such absurd things? Su Qingwan lowered her gaze. Mom, Hanyu and I have grown tired of each other after all these years. Hanyu is a good man. Don't worry. I'll marry him, but only out of duty, only because you need care. Beyond that, I can give him nothing else. Don't force me anymore. So, in Su Qingwan's eyes, I was just a nice guy. I chuckled bitterly and turned to leave. At that moment, Sichen noticed me. Hanyu. Hearing this, Su Qingwan immediately distanced herself from Sichen, her expression panic-stricken. Hanyu, why are you here? Don't misunderstand. I ran into a Chun during my checkup, and he kindly drove me to the hospital and accompanied me. The lie was clumsy, but I couldn't be bothered to expose it anymore. Yeah, I understand. By the way, Qingwan, can you transfer me 8,000? I want to move out. Since I was already here, I decided to bring up the matter as well. Unexpectedly, Sichen's eyes instantly reddened as he provoked. Brother Hanyu, why would you suddenly want to move out when everything was fine? I knew it. You're still misunderstanding me and your senior sister. It's all my fault. My good intentions backfired, and now I've become the villain ruining your relationship. If that's how it is, I'll just leave. Su Qingwan grabbed his arm, looking at me with utter disappointment. Hanyu, you used to be so sensible. Why are you being so petty now? Stop this. I'm really exhausted by your behavior. Enough. Take this time to reflect properly. Achin helped me all day. I'll see him out. Su Qingwan and I have been married for 10 years, yet she doubted my character based on Sichen's few words. At this moment, my heart completely turned to ashes. Su Qingwan, if you leave now, there's no going back for us. However, Su Qingwan only paused for a moment before driving away, leaving me with a mouthful of exhaust fumes. My chest tightened painfully. The next second, I vomited blood and collapsed at the doorway. My mother-in-law came to investigate after hearing the commotion. Upon seeing me unconscious in a pool of blood, she panicked and immediately called an ambulance. When I woke up, my mother-in-law's eyes were swollen from crying. The doctor said the shock worsened your kidney failure. Only 10 days left. Why are you so foolish, child? You neglected your own health for Qingwan's sake. I'm sorry, we're the ones who failed you. Unable to bear it, my mother-in-law revealed the truth about Su Qingwan pretending to be ill. I smiled bitterly. Mom, I've known for a long time. With a sigh, she immediately called Su Qingwan. Qingwan, Xiaoyu has late-stage kidney failure. He vomited blood and collapsed earlier. You hurried to the hospital to see him. There was a pause on Su Qingwan's end of the line. What? Hanyu is sick? Sichin interjected provocatively beside her. How could such a coincidence happen? Vomiting blood right after leaving. Senior sister, Brother Han, you must still be angry with me, pretending to be sick to vent his frustration. Su Qingwan's tone turned icy instantly. Hanyu, have you had enough of this drama? If you keep this up, believe me, I'll really call off our reconciliation. And you, Mom, stop indulging his nonsense when there's nothing wrong. Before her mother-in-law could respond further, Su Qingwan had already hung up. Furious, the mother-in-law wanted to have Su Qingwan brought over by force, but I shook my head to stop her. No need, Mom. I just want to spend these last few days in peace. With tearful eyes, she nodded and even gave me her lifelong savings meant for her funeral, supporting my decision to move out. I thanked her and suggested she rest early. After recovering somewhat, I checked out of the hospital and returned home. After arriving home, I went inside to pack my belongings and dragged out the cardboard box hidden under the bed. Inside were all the shared memories of Su Qingwan and me. There was the sweater she knit for me with her own hands, the jade carving I specially crafted for her, and couples items symbolizing our sweet past. But now, none of it was needed anymore. With this thought, I carried the box to the trash bin by the door and threw it away. After finishing this, I removed my wedding ring and placed it in a gift box along with my diagnosis report. I then called a courier, instructing him to deliver it to Su Qingwan in 10 days, what I considered my wedding gift to her. Having done all this, I grabbed my luggage and left without looking back. I rented a studio apartment to stay in. During this time, Su Qingwan maintained her Cold War with me, while Sichin bombarded me with provocative texts and their intimate photos. Today I picked wedding candies with senior sister. We went wedding dress shopping. Senior sister says I'm youthful and energetic, unlike you, like a dead fish, utterly boring. Hanyu, you lost from the very beginning. My heart went from heartache to numbness since that start. 10 days later, Su Qingwan and Sichun were holding their wedding ceremony. My body had reached its limit. Lying on the bed, I swallowed sleeping pills and quietly awaited death. In my fading consciousness, precious memories played like a kaleidoscope through my mind. At first, we loved each other dearly, swearing eternal faithfulness. But later, we became mutually repulsive. The one who vowed to love me forever was her, and the one who grew tired of me was also her. Tears streamed down my temples as consciousness faded. Su Qingwan, I release you, and choose to release myself too. I closed my eyes, my hand falling limply. Meanwhile, Su Qingwan suddenly felt an inexplicable panic. Could something have happened to Hanyu? But she quickly dismissed it as unnecessary worry. Hanyu was perfectly healthy. What could possibly go wrong? Just as she and Sichin were about to exchange rings, a courier suddenly barged in. Miss Su Qingwan, this is a wedding gift from Mr. Hanyu. Please sign for it. Sichin's lips curved upward. From Brother Hanyu? Senior, open it quickly. Su Qingwan's heart pounded like a drum. She had always kept it secret. How did Hanyu know about her wedding? Yet she signed and slowly unwrapped the gift box. When she saw the contents, her face paled, freezing her in place. A wedding ring? And a medical report. Su Qingwan stared at the items in shock. A realization struck her, panic flickering across her face. Does this mean what my mother said was true? Hanyu really has renal failure. Her hands trembled as they clutched the box. I can't stay. This anxiety is unbearable. I must see Hanyu. Lifting her wedding gown's hem, she dashed toward the exit. Siken, who was standing nearby, suddenly grabbed her arm and said with a pitiful expression, Senior, we're still in the middle of our wedding. What should I do if you run away? Can you bear to abandon me and let me suffer public criticism? Hearing this, Su Qingwan stopped in her tracks, appearing visibly hesitant. Noticing her wavering resolve, Siken seized the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. Senior, calm down. A single medical report doesn't prove anything. With today's advanced technology, forging reports is easier than ever. This medical record might very well be fabricated by Brother Hanyu. Alas, I never thought Brother Hanyu could be so resentful as to go this far to sabotage our wedding. Su Qingwan's expression visibly darkened, her tone dropping to a drop-dead cold. Hanyu is getting more and more outrageous. To think he'd tell such lies just to ruin the wedding. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. In a fit of rage, she threw the gift box aside. Achun, let's continue. The wedding resumed. A cunning, triumphant glint flashed in Sichen's eyes. At Su Qingwan's signal, the MC frantically sped through the Vucheng process. Just as Su Qingwan and Sichen were about to exchange vows, her phone rang. The moment she answered, her mother-in-law's panicked voice blared through. Qingwan, it's terrible. Xiaoyu, he's dead. Come quick. Before her mother could finish, Su Qingwan coldly interrupted. Enough with the act? Mom, What kind of bewitching potion did Han Yu feed you to make you help him with this nonsense? I'm busy. No time for your games. With that, Su Qingwan decisively hung up. But the phone rang again immediately. Su Qingwan answered impatiently. Deng Hongmei, will you ever stop? Su Qingwan directly addressed her mother-in-law by her full name, a clear sign of her anger. The next second, a police officer's voice came through the phone. Miss Su, this is the police station. According to Mrs. Deng Hongmei, the deceased Han Yu was your husband. Are you available to come to THE station to claim his remains? Upon hearing this, Su Qingwan froze in place, her face gradually turning ashen. What did you say? The deceased? Han Yu is dead? Senior, this must be another actor hired by brother Han Yu. Another one of his schemes to play the victim. Don't fall for it. But Su Qingwan was no longer listening. She pushed Sichin aside and rushed to the police station without looking back. At the station, my corpse lay quietly on a stretcher, face cyanotic, as if in deep sleep. Meanwhile, my soul had detached from my body, hovering near the ceiling as I witnessed everything unfolding below. When Su Qingwan arrived, what she saw was the scene of my mother-in-law holding my corpse and shedding agonizing tears. Her eyes widened in shock as she froze in place, her voice involuntarily trembling. What happened? How could Han Yu? When everything was fine. The police officer patted Su Qingwan's shoulder sympathetically. It was your mother who went to deliver food to Mr. Han earlier, but nobody answered the door no matter how long she knocked. When your mother sensed something was wrong, she contacted the police. By the time we arrived and forced the door open, Mr. Han had already stopped breathing. Please accept our condolences. Su Qingwan stood as if struck by lightning, approaching me with her steps heavy as lead. No, this can't be. He was perfectly fine a few days ago. How could he just be gone like this? I refuse to believe this. Han Yu, you're just pretending to sleep because you're angry with me, aren't you? All right now, I'm here already. You can stop sleeping. She reached out to touch me, but upon touching my icy cold skin, she jerked her hand back. So cold. Su Qingwan suddenly sensed something was wrong, shook her head repeatedly, calling out my name. Han Yu, wake up, please don't scare me like this. When I remained unresponsive, Su Qingwan finally had to accept my death. Her eyes reddened instantly as she knelt beside my corpse, sobbing bitterly. How could this happen? Han Yu, wake up, please wake up. But no matter how loudly she called, I couldn't wake up anymore, because I was already dead. Beside us, my mother-in-law glared at Su Qingwan with tear-filled eyes, accusing. How dare you cry? You're the one who caused Xiao Yu's death. Xiao Yu was such a good man. I told you to stop hurting him. Why wouldn't you listen? Do you even know? If you hadn't deceived him, Xiao Yu wouldn't have worked himself to death trying to meet your demands. It's you. You killed Xiao Yu. Su Qingwan's eyes filled with immense remorse as pearly tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry, Han Yu. I didn't mean for this to happen. I just wanted you to divorce me. I didn't mean to drive you to death. Yet I watched coldly, unmoved. She hadn't intended to kill me, but Dee truly died because of her, wasn't that right? At this moment, Su Qingwan was about to sign the papers to take away my corpse. Suddenly, a stern shout came from the door. No, you can't take Han Yu away. Turning to look, it was the crematorium staff. My spirits lifted. Perfect timing. I absolutely didn't want to be taken away by Su Qingwan. But Su Qingwan looked puzzled. Who are you? The staff hurriedly introduced themselves. Ms. Su, we're from the crematorium. To explain, Mr. Han Yu previously purchased a cremation package from us, and specifically left a will requiring us to handle his cremation and all posthumous arrangements after his death. Therefore, you can't take Mr. Han's remains. They must be entrusted to us for processing. As he spoke, the staff member directly pulled out the will certificate I had prepared in advance from his pocket to prove they weren't lying. After carefully examining it, the policeman nodded to confirm the validity of the will. Since you have the deceased's last will, we should indeed respect the decedent's wishes. With these words, the policeman was about to hand over my body to the staff. However, Su Qingwan refused to comply. She arched her eyebrows in disapproval. Even with a will, I'm Han Yu's legal wife. If anyone should cremate him, it should be me. How can you entrust his funeral arrangements to complete strangers? No, I won't feel at ease with that. The mother-in-law nodded in agreement nearby. Exactly. We should take Xiao Yu's remains home with us. But the staff member eyed Su Qingwan suspiciously and questioned. You claim to be Mr. Han Yu's wife? But when Mr. Han Yu registered with us, he clearly stated he had no relatives or connections in this world. If you claim to be his wife, then show us the marriage certificate. If you can't produce it, we can only follow Mr. Han Yu's will. The police also concurred, stating that if Su Qingwan couldn't provide proof, my body would be handled according to the staff's procedures. Of course I have one. Su Qingwan instinctively tried to retrieve our marriage certificate as evidence. But she searched for a long time without finding our marriage license. She probably forgot. We had already divorced long ago. It was she who insisted on divorcing me to give Si Chen formal status. After a frozen moment, Su Qingwan seemed to remember something, her face flushing with embarrassment as she explained. I suddenly recall that Han Yu and I divorced for special reasons, but it was only a divorce in name. He's still my husband. The staff member, however, burst into derisive laughter as if hearing a joke. Miss Su, are you joking? A divorce is a divorce. What nonsense is this divorce in name? Being rebutted like this, Su Qingwan immediately felt a lump in her throat, while I watched from above with bitter amusement. Yes, even outsiders understood this simple truth, yet Su Qingwan remained blind to it, still deceiving herself. Since you can't produce a marriage certificate, then don't prevent us from taking Mr. Han Yu away. The staff was about to remove me according to the will when Su Qingwan suddenly spoke up. Wait, I won't interfere with the funeral arrangements. You can handle that. But I want to bid Han Yu a final farewell. Surely you won't stop me from doing that. The staff member coldly refused again. I'm afraid that's not possible. Su Qingwan's face flushed red with anger. Why can't I even do this? Are you deliberately making things difficult for me? The staff member shook their head and directly showed my will to Su Qingwan. Mr. Han Yu specifically stated in his will, not only does he entrust us with full authority to handle the funeral arrangements, but he also expressly forbids anyone from attending his cremation and burial, especially you, Miss Su. That's exactly why I added this clause back then, because I was afraid there might be entanglements with Su Qingwan after my death. Looks like I truly had foresight. Su Qingwan grabbed the will in disbelief. When she saw the additional condition handwritten by me, her face turned ashen. She staggered backward, tears streaming down her face as she sobbed uncontrollably. Han Yu, I never realized you resented me so deeply that you'd refuse even my last farewell. I'm your wife. How could you be so cruel to me? Instead, my mother-in-law glared at Su Qingwan indignantly and spoke up for me. Qingwan, you've always been the cruel one. Did you know? Han Yu was listening outside the door that day we spoke. He already knew everything. Upon hearing this, Su Qingwan's eyes widened in shock, her voice trembling. How could that be? That day, Han Yu actually heard everything. Su Qingwan seemed to think of something, froze for a moment. Then panic surged in her eyes as her complexion visibly deteriorated. No wonder Han Yu has been acting so strangely these days. No wonder Han Yu, who always knew propriety and moderation, repeatedly abandoned decorum to desperately plead with me to stay with him. I thought he was just being petty, never realizing he already knew everything. Those were chances he gave me, but I failed to grasp any of them. Su Qingwan collapsed weakly to the floor, glistening tears streaming uncontrollably down her face. I'm sorry, Han Yu. I didn't realize those were your final attempts to keep me. It's all my fault. If I'd known it was our last anniversary, I'd have gone with you no matter what. Unfortunately, there were no do-overs. I was already dead, and our relationship was completely over. Su Qingwan's weeping intensified until she eventually cried herself unconscious. After waking up, Su Qingwan was surprised to find herself lying in her own bed at home. Mom, how did I end up here? You fainted, and the police kindly brought you back. As she spoke, the mother-in-law glanced around and couldn't help but sigh softly. Since Xiao Yu passed away, this home has become so much quieter. Enough, you look after yourself now. I'm going back to rest. As she spoke, the mother-in-law wheeled herself away in the wheelchair. Su Qingwan sat frozen on the bed like a lost soul, sobbing while murmuring fragments of our past happiness. Her expression fluctuated between tenderness and delirium. Ayu, we were once so deeply in love. How did things end up like this? I still remember back when you confessed your feelings to me. You specially carved a jade sculpture in my likeness. You were so clumsy with your hands. You ended up covering them in cuts for this carving. You have no idea how much my heart ached seeing you like that at the time. And those handwritten love letters you gave me. Thinking back now, they were so corny, but back then I found your innocence to be adorable. You always kept all these mementos of our beautiful memories in a cardboard box. I remember that box. It should be under the bed. As she spoke, Su Qingwan bent down to fumble beneath the bed, desperate to find the box and relive their past. But after groping around for a long time, she found nothing. Why? Why is there nothing here? How could this be? Where's the box? How could such a big box just disappear? Refusing to accept this, Su Qingwan began combing through every corner of the house, like conducting a military search. Yet even after turning the entire house upside down, the box remained elusive. Just then, the neighbor next door heard Su Qingwan's wailing. The kind-hearted woman knocked on the door and called out to the distraught occupant. Xiao Su, what are you looking for? It sounds like you've lost something very important. Su Qingwan's eyes were red from crying. It's extremely important. It's a large cardboard box containing keepsakes of I use and my love, like jade carvings and love letters. The neighbor looked thoughtful. A big cardboard box. I think I might have seen it. Su Qingwan's eyes lit up, seizing the neighbor's hand in excitement. You've seen it. Then you must know where it is, right? The neighbor nodded. That day when I was taking out the trash, I saw Hanyu from your household carrying a big cardboard box. There were quite a few nice things inside, but he threw them away without hesitation. I asked him why he was discarding them. He said they'd only collect dust, but I could see those items were practically brand new. What a shame to just throw them away like that. Hearing this, Su Qingwan succumbed to stunned silence. What did you say? Ayu threw the box away. Ayu, how could you be so heartless? These were our memories. How could you discard them? So casually. I couldn't help but find this scene darkly amusing. But hadn't Su Qingwan been the first to abandon our feelings? Su Qingwan thanked the neighbor and hurried off to the trash bin. While I was puzzling over her actions, she, usually so fastidious, buried her head directly into the stinking garbage bin, rummaging through the filth without hesitation. She tried to find any remaining items, even if it was just a single piece of my clothing or a necktie. Unfortunately, the trash I had thrown away earlier had already been taken away. All she ended up with was a body stained with fruit peels and noodle soup residue, finding nothing of value. Helpless, Su Qingwan returned home dispiritedly. Upon opening the door, she found Sikhen sitting on the sofa. Su Qingwan frowned slightly. What are you doing here? Sikhen quickly stood to greet her, but instinctively stepped back to create some distance when he caught the stench clinging to her. He sighed, feigning sorrow. Senior, I heard about Brother Hanyu. I never thought Brother Hanyu would really. Please, take care of yourself during this difficult time. But perhaps that's fate. Senpai, you shouldn't blame yourself too much. Although Brother Hanyu is gone, you still have me. Besides, we've already gone through the procedures. It counts as formalities completed. Let's go register our marriage another day. I'll love you properly in Brother Hanyu's stead. I had assumed Su Qingwan would agree without hesitation. After all, to be with Si Chun, she even resorted to feigning illness to deceive me. Now that she's getting what she wanted, she must be thrilled, right? Unexpectedly, Su Qingwan pushed Si Chun away with force, her tone icy cold. How dare you spout such nonsense when you just passed? Moreover, I've told you, the only man worthy to be my husband is Hanyu. You're not worthy. Get out. Get out of here. For a moment, Si Chun froze in disbelief, staring at Su Qingwan. I was also taken aback. Su Qingwan actually rejected Si Chun? Hadn't she always wanted to legitimize her relationship with Si Chun? Now that the perfect opportunity has come, why isn't she taking it? Over here, a vicious glint flashed in Si Chun's eyes before quickly returning to normal. He said softly, Senior sister, I was presumptuous. Rest well, I won't disturb you anymore. I'll take my leave. Yet the moment he stepped out, Si Chun's expression twisted into grimace. He muttered coldly under his breath. Damn Hanyu, even in death, you won't rest in peace. But no matter, winning Su Qingwan over is only a matter of time. I tried moving closer to hear clearly, but before I could approach, my soul was forcibly pulled back. Only then did I realize I couldn't stray too far from Su Qingwan. Su Qingwan collapsed onto the sofa, rubbing her throbbing temples, almost instinctively calling out, Ayu, go draw me a hot bath. And make me some noodles. I'm exhausted after running around all day. But after repeated calls yielded no response, Su Qingwan's temper flared. Hanyu, I'm talking to you. You. Su Qingwan opened her eyes and glanced at the empty house, finally realizing I was no longer here. I wouldn't be at her beck and call like before. Her eyes reddened as Su Qingwan took a deep breath, forced to prepare bathwater herself before cooking a simple vegetable noodle soup. After finishing her nightly routine, she was about to go to bed. A sudden storm broke outside, lightning and thunder clashing as booming roars made Su Qingwan jolt upright. She immediately burrowed under the covers, pulling the quilt tightly over her head. She always feared thunderstorms. I used to hold her close during every rumble to comfort her. Now, Su Qingwan could only curl up in the cold bedding, hands clamped over her ears while desperately calling my name. Ayu, Ayu, where are you? Ayu, there's thunder. I'm so scared. But even when her voice cracked from shouting, I never appeared. Until this moment, Su Qingwan finally realized she had long been inseparable from me, and I had thoroughly permeated every corner of her life, lingering irreversibly. Su Qingwan didn't sleep well the entire night. She hid under the covers, silently shedding tears. Sorry, Ayu. I never realized how important you were to me. Ayu, I miss you so much. It turns out being alone feels so lonely and helpless. When I wasn't by your side, you must have suffered like this too. I'm sorry, really sorry. I desperately wanted to say it's okay. I don't blame her. After all, if I no longer cared, how could I possibly resent her? The next morning, Su Qingwan got up with dark circles under her eyes. Without me waking up early to prepare hot breakfast for her, she could only eat instant noodles with plain water to fill her stomach. Just as she finished eating, her phone rang. It was a call from the crematorium. Ms. Su, Mr. Hanyu has been buried. There are some of his personal effects here. Would you be available to collect them? Available. Of course I'm available. Su Qingwan happened to be desperately seeking personal mementos to remember me. This call from the crematorium being equivalent to receiving charcoal in snowy weather. I followed Su Qingwan to the crematorium as well. The cremation staff handed my phone to Su Qingwan. She repeatedly thanked them while accepting the device, immediately powering it on to search through it, trying to find traces of my existence. The moment it booted up, 99 unread text messages instantly flooded the screen. When she opened them, Su Qingwan's face immediately turned ashen, her eyes overflowing with rage. For these were all provocative messages Chen Si had sent me. Brother Han Yu, the senior tried in. EW positions with me again today. You two never experimented like this, right? The senior just can't resist my body. She's after my youth and energy since I'm younger than you. What can I do? Brother Han Yu, what does your decade-long romance with senior mean? Didn't she dump you to marry me with just one word from me? If you know what's good for you, scram already, old man. Save yourself the embarrassment later. Su Qingwan kept scrolling through message after message. By the time she finished reading all the texts, her face had turned deep crimson like pork liver. Her fists clenched tight, eyes blazing with fury. Si Chun, so it was you. You're the one who drove AU to his death. Damn you. Blinded by rage, Su Qingwan immediately drove to confront Si Chun. Following her phone's GPS to the private room door, she was about to push it open when Si Chin's boisterous laughter with his cronies drifted out. Brother Jiang, didn't you say you'd bag that woman Su Qingwan in minutes? Where's the progress? TCH, it's all because of that old fool Han Yu. Can't even rest in peace when dead. But no matter. With my smooth talk, Su Qingwan will cave after a few more days of sweet talk. Si Chin's tone was brimming with arrogance, radiating absolute confidence in his victory. His lackeys chimed in obsequiously. Brother Jiang's truly unmatched. Teach us your ways. We want to reel in some wealthy catches too. Si Chin chuckled darkly. It's simple. Do you know why Han Yu's health deteriorated so suddenly? The truth is, Su Qingwan faked illness back then just to force him into divorce, trying to drive him to despair by cutting off his job prospects. But I arranged a job for him. Except I made sure the employer slashed wages and tripled his workload. Had to squeeze that fool to death. And Han Yu didn't disappoint. Kidney failure took him. Ha. With that old bastard dead, my ascension was inevitable. As the raucous laughter crescendoed, homicidal fury burned in Su Qingwan's eyes. Yet she resisted storming in. After a chilling moment of composure, she turned away and hissed through gritted teeth. You, I will avenge you. Just wait a little longer. I won't spare anyone who harmed you. But though Su Qingwan swore to avenge me, from that day onward, she actively drew closer to Si Chun. Not only did she frequently message and call him, but she also repeatedly invited him to her home, confiding how unbearably boring and lonely her life had become since my departure. Half a month later, when Si Chun proposed to Su Qingwan again, she accepted. For the occasion, Su Qingwan specially reserved a high-end restaurant for celebration. Ah Chun, I don't know how I could have endured these days without your company. Su Qingwan filled Si Chin's glass to the brim. Now that we lovers are finally united, shouldn't we drink to this joyous OC? Kassion, already dizzy with euphoria from her acceptance, Si Chin drank the wine without the slightest hesitation or suspicion. Within moments, his eyes rolled back and he collapsed unconscious. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in an abandoned factory, hands and feet tied behind his back, unable to move. How did I get here? Si Chin struggled desperately, but found his efforts futile. At that moment, Su Qingwan's icy voice came from above him. Don't waste your energy. I'm the one who tied you up here. Si Chin instantly turned cold eyes towards Su Qingwan. You? Why are you doing this to me? Su Qingwan immediately slapped Si Chin's face, drawing blood from the corner of his lips. You dare ask me? I want to ask you. Why did you kill my AU? Si Chin's cheek flushed red, panic flashing in his eyes though he stubbornly retorted. What killing? I don't know what you're talking about. Before he could finish, Su Qingwan slapped him again. Still playing tough. If you didn't kill AU, then explain this. As she spoke, Su Qingwan thrust forward both the phone and the recording from outside the private room that day, her voice dripping with venom. Si Chun, who allowed you to send these things to AU without my permission? Didn't I tell you not to cause trouble in front of AU? Why won't you ever listen? Faced with irrefutable evidence, Si Chin couldn't deny it. Knowing Su Qingwan's terrifying methods all too well, cold sweat poured down his face as he begged frantically. Senior I'm sorry, I was wrong. I really didn't mean to. I was just too in love with you, that's why. Please forgive me, I won't dare anymore, never again. The next moment, Si Chin's pig-slaughtering shrieks echoed through the air. Su Qingwan directly hacked off his hand with an axe, her expression maniacal. This chop is punishment for dirtying AU's eyes with your messages. Another blood-curdling scream erupted as Su Qingwan severed his leg. This chop is punishment for deliberately harassing my Ayu. If not for your sabotage, Ayu wouldn't have worked himself to death. Twitching in agony, Sichin finally lost his temper, pointing at Su Qingwan and roaring angrily. I am the murderer, but aren't you also one? If not for your indulgence, why would I dare provoke Hanyu? You gave me the confidence to challenge him. Besides, if you hadn't pretended to be ill, why would Hanyu deliver takeout and move bricks? How could I have found opportunities? Su Qingwan, where was this love when Hanyu was alive? Only after his death do you put on hypocritical displays of affection. Who are you acting for? Isn't this disgusting? If I'm the murderer, you're the accomplice. You're just a philandering, licentious, selfish, and vicious woman. If you couldn't keep your legs closed, why blame me? Sichin's relentless cursing finally enraged Su Qingwan. Raising her blade, she killed him in a fury. After killing Sichin, Su Qingwan grabbed the axe and plunged it into her own heart. Collapsing in a pool of blood, she murmured to the air before dying. Ayu, I've avenged you. This lifetime, I was the one who wronged you. If there's a next life, I will. I will treat you properly. But I don't want to forgive her. In the next life, let's still not meet again. After Su Qingwan completely breathed her last, the restraints around me disappeared. I found myself able to move freely. I took one final look at the place where I lived, then followed the underworld officers to the netherworld. Just as I was about to cross the Naiha Bridge, Su Qingwan's voice came from behind. Ayu, I've finally found you. Are you going to reincarnate? Take me with you, please. But I coldly refused. No, Su Qingwan, from now on, we have no connection. My new life has nothing to do with you. With that, I strode forward and entered the cycle of reincarnation. As for Su Qingwan and Sichin, due to their numerous evil deeds, they were cast into the 18th level of hell to endure torment by scorching flames and boiling oil. 10 months later,